Yes, America won. America won that particular conversation. The sport still growing, including here in America. But I think this is very cool. David, Dr. Gina, I don't know about you guys, but I always wanted to be a knight, and this would be my way of being a knight. I could kind of get in and maybe join one of these competitions. I think it's cool.
It's cool. Renaissance Festival, come alive.
Yeah.
I love it.
There you go.
My kids will love it. MMA on the next level. All right, you guys. All right, you guys. War Room is up next. Hug your children. Love God. Go boldly now. Live the truth. We'll see you tomorrow.
Don't forget your oyster. Do you have your oyster? Did I say oyster? I mean ostrich egg. What am I talking about?
We have now had 3 days of relative calm after that 13-day stretch where we saw those night-by-night attacks, and it does come even after the president was threatening this major escalation in Iran. There was a discussion at the White House on Friday discussing both the efficacy of those night-by-night strikes, but also about the potential risks for escalation. And what we're told is that both the Vice President, J.D. Vance, and General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, raised concerns about escalation, and that Kane in particular has warned about the potential for dwindling stockpiles of U.S. munitions, including air defense interceptors. Now, the administration strongly denies that that is an issue. What Mike Walls, the American ambassador to the United Nations, said yesterday is that, quote, the military has everything it needs to conduct this campaign as effectively as it needs to be. And also claiming, somewhat contradictory there, that anyone leaking information about weapon stockpiles deserves to be in jail. Now, there were a few other concerns that were raised in this meeting, including the potential for a wider regional retaliation. The president also hearing concerns about the potential for civilian deaths inside of Iran if he went after some of those civilian infrastructure sites that he'd been repeatedly warning he would attack, including bridges, power plants, that sort of thing. Now, what the administration is also saying today is that they want space for the diplomacy to proceed, and I am told this morning that that is still continuing. The mediators, including Pakistan and Qatar, still in discussions to try and get the two sides back to the negotiating table. You also have Iran and Oman discussing ways to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. What you've seen President Trump doing over the weekend is continuing this relatively belligerent approach on social media. He posted almost a dozen AI-generated images of the U.S. seizing oil tankers, of the U.S. striking Karg Island, including oil sites on that very critical export site. Now, the president still continuing to have these diplomatic discussions. He's also expected to discuss the whole situation with the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. He's visiting the U.S. for Lindsey Graham's funeral tomorrow. Israel has made pretty clear that it thinks the U.S. has unfinished business inside of Iran.
On economic consequences for every historic and significant decision a president makes. And I am confident that in the end, President Trump will be judged as one of our greatest presidents for numerous reasons, but especially this courageous undertaking. And it may take time, context, and perspective to understand how extraordinary the president's actions are and how heroic they are under the circumstances, since it seems that every element of our society, except for you, Mr. and Mrs. America, are objecting to him doing what he's doing, which must be done.
We have to take a step back here in that a lot of stockpiles were depleted, not only from what we gave Ukraine over the last however many years, 4 or 5 years, and the administration inherited, the Secretary Hegseth inherited a depleted situation from not only Ukraine, but also the ongoing fight with the Houthis under the Biden administration and a depleted military under the Biden administration. So they have decided, one, they're going to new types of munitions. cheaper munitions, new technologies, but also with these new defense budgets, rebuilding our great military. However,
but you
I want to be clear.
No, I want to acknowledge they're depleted though at this moment.
I want to be crystal clear. The U.S. military, and I've verified this every which way, has everything that it needs to conduct this campaign as effectively as it needs to be. And I have to tell you, the people that are leaking this nonsense deserve to be in jail.
A French journalist said that she asked President Trump whether he was considering resuming full-scale war. And I want to share how he replied, quote, "If we don't get 100% of what we want, absolutely." Getting 100%, I'm gonna be generous with this, seems like a really, really, really far reach right now. Are they not setting themselves up to fail by saying things like that?
Well, it's one form of a negotiating strategy, I guess. But the pattern that we've seen here over the last weeks and months now with President Trump and his negotiators is this kind of back and forth of saying that they are going to go all out in terms of war and military pressure. And, that can dial up for a few days. In recent weeks, of course, we've seen, in fact, a resumption of active hostilities and then dialing back and, sort of using this rhetoric of military pressure to try to achieve some breakthroughs at the negotiating table. So far, that hasn't been working. It kind of seems as though neither the U.S. nor the Iranian side wants a resumption of the fullest scale hostilities that we saw at the beginning of this war in March. But at the same time, neither side is in a place yet where it's ready to make the concessions that would be necessary actually to reach some sort of negotiated deal. So we have this kind of in-between place of back and forth and neither peace nor war.
About some of the election deniers that are on the ballot in some of the purple states. I think Arizona comes to mind, right, where Andy Biggs won the Republican nomination for governor. Now, Biggs is a certified election denier, right? And when I think about 2000 and 2020, right, Donald Trump talked about that effort as the big lie. And it was a big lie, but it was also a big conspiracy that had multiple people in multiple states. My question for you is this time any different? Like, it feels like we've seen this show before. Carrie Lake, another election denier, got her nomination for, what was that, Senate governor, and she lost. Is this time different?
Was also in Arizona.
Right.
A couple things. I mean, one, I think that we should zoom out. In the scope of history, we should always worry when these types of people are major nominees for public office. You go all the way back to before the American Revolution. Some of the big pamphleteers in this country, I'm talking about in the 1750s and 1760s, were writing about one of the problems they saw in London at the time.
Yeah.
People were denying elections. People were contesting election after election. It was the canary in the coal mine for the parliamentary system in Britain. One of the reasons so many of those men and women said, I'm decamping, I'm going to the United States. They can't even seem to run an election over here.
Yeah.
Fast forward a couple hundred years here in the United States, we see a similar environment, and where these people are not being shunned, they're being elevated for public office. I mean, to put it another way, the January 6th insurrectionists were trying to get in the House. Now they're inside the House. Now they're core nominees for public office. Andy Biggs, big advocate for what we were seeing on that day for the prevention of the peaceful transfer of power, now a major party nominee. Here's the other side of the coin, though. He's got to go into a general election.
Right.
He may have won a primary. He may have shown I'm the most radical of the radicals, but he's got to go win over people in Arizona who have one hell of an independent streak. If you go to Arizona, people don't like to identify as D or R in the general election. They've got a big capital I. These are independent-minded mavericks in Arizona, and Andy Biggs is going to face a tough hill to climb to win them over.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose?
If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
It's Monday, 27 July, year of our Lord 2026. The great Sam Faddis passed away on Saturday evening. If anybody's virtually almost irreplaceable here in the War Room, Sam would be one of the key elements. Such a great job of representing patriots in the MAGA movement from the early days of the steal in 2020. Sam Faddis became a regular on the show. In fact, we'll play his last hit, which was right before 4th of July. He was going to be on the 4th of July show, but was a little under the weather. And then things kind of picked up momentum from there. We are going to have Poso will be with me in the next segment. We'll talk about Sam. Before we get to much of the news that Sam was the best at breaking down for us. Voter fraud, and also the worldwide geopolitical situation. Particularly, Sam had so many years of experience in Iran, in the Middle East, particularly with the Persians. He was unique, I think, among people coming on TV or radio to analyze it. But God's will was he would leave us, and he would leave us on Saturday night, but he will live with us forever. We are going to do a 2-hour special tomorrow night from 5 to 7 about the legacy of Sam Faddis, and we're going to tie it to the news. I don't think we could have better timing than the day that Zelensky and Netanyahu are coming for Lindsey Graham's funeral, but also to have meetings at the White House. And we're going to tie some of the historic hits with Sam Faddis to how current it is, and I think it's kind of breathtaking of how prescient Sam Faddis was, not simply a good man and a patriot that dedicated his life to his country, but somebody that had really the ability to look downrange, just an extraordinary individual. So Sam Faddis tomorrow night, 5 to 7, a War Room, a special, and we'll have Natalie and Poso be co-hosting. We'll have many other the personalities on to discuss Sam and his work and his life and his legacy. Garland Favorito. Garland, we're going to talk politics in a little while. This enthusiasm gap, of 10 points. The left wing sees the end of Trump and the end of Trumpism. I was on John Frederick's show earlier, but I keep saying we could close that enthusiasm gap. One of the ways we could do it is really get focused on voter fraud, which is a top issue, because the voter fraud and the stealing of elections is inextricably linked with illegal aliens in the country and foreign nationals being on voter rolls, no matter how much the Democrats tell us or not. There are 278,000 just in 4 states. I think one of the biggest bombs was not simply the Chinese Communist Party was trying to take voter rolls and manipulate them. Everybody knows you can buy them commercially. They were hacking them so they can manipulate them. But also 278,000 non-citizen aliens on voter rolls just in 4 states. That means there are millions and millions and millions. That piece alone is a bombshell. You and Georgia are the tip of the spear. I would say Arizona and Georgia are the 2 worst, with Pennsylvania and right behind. You've put out a press release this morning. What are you calling for? What is Voter GA calling for in this press release, Garland Favorito?
Well, Steve, after the president made his speech and declassified these documents, we decided to open a project to actually look at them all. And I personally have read every declassified document that has been released. And as you said, they are stunning. There's 5 different areas that he outlined. As you mentioned, the Chinese Communist government acquiring 220 million voter roll records. We had as you said, the 278,000 non-citizens on the voter rolls, 250,000 in only 4 states, as you mentioned. And then you had the fake Michigan voter registration drive up in Michigan, that was GBI strategies. That was another major thing. And the Venezuelan connections, as well as how they had developed a means to basically manipulate election results electronically. But probably even one of the most stunning things was the U.S. Intelligence Committee, both multiple divisions of U.S. intelligence, FBI, NSA, CIA, that were covering up all this information of the Chinese influence into American elections. And particularly, they had two things going. They had the interference, and they had several projects there, and they had this massive influencing campaign. And all of this was covered up. And, you know, you and I and many people have been talking about the deep state all along. And, you know, there are examples in these documents of the deep state in action. And this is just one example we thought was incredibly important to share, and that is when the FBI counterintelligence director said that she was running a shadow government across the FBI.
Hang on one second, Carla. Where are you getting to that? Her name, her identity, and why she is not already rolled up next to the war room.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories.
From Real America's Music comes the ultimate patriotic track to power your movement. Get Out the Vote by the Truth Bombers.
Granddad said freedom's like an old fence line, son.
Whether you're rallying the neighborhood, heading to the polls, or standing up for the red, white, and blue, this is the soundtrack for freedom-loving Americans everywhere. Don't wait. Pre-save Get Out the Vote by Truth Bombers right now on all major streaming platforms. Play it loud, share it proud, and let's get out the vote.
Get out and vote. Let your voice be heard. More than a bumper sticker or a spoken word. Take a friend, take your wife, take a neighbor who's been busy all his life. One honest vote, one honest count. That's what this republic's all about. Stand up proud from coast to coast. Freedom needs more than a social post.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
Here we go, all of us.
Wow, that's good.
I'm fueled up now.
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by patriots for patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the Rav Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
Hi, Pat, from Muskegon, Michigan. Why do you love Rav?
Because we've become family. All those Rav live chatters and me.
This is Tim King, also known as USS Malik, and I love Real America's Voices for its like-minded programming and the chat. Love you guys.
I'm Terry from New Jersey, and I just want to say that I love Real America's Voice. I love you guys. Keep up the good work.
Okay, Poso's just back with us, but we have a technical issue. We're going to try to get him up, and maybe by phone, but just bear with us momentarily. Garland, I want to make sure we put this in perspective, because a way to get the enthusiasm level, which, let's be blunt, the political geniuses doing this have not said how they're going to do it. I got a hint for them. Take your number 2 pencil out and write down. Let's get back to President Trump's. Let's get back to the policies that won the biggest come from behind victory in American history in 2024. Just the basics like mass deportations and, we're going to have budget cuts and finally get hands around the budget, no foreign wars, a maniacal focus on the United States, a new nationalism focused on this. But at the railhead of it, we are going to clean out the rat's nest of the deep state. And the first way we're going to do it is to stop allowing, whether it's Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, or Zoran Mamdani, from being able to steal elections. If you stop them from coming in and supporting the deep state and allowing the deep state to do that, that is a huge effort. We're way down the road, and people will get jacked up with that because the stealing of the elections, okay, and the concomitant invasion of our country are inextricably linked. The Warren Posse knows that. They're enthusiastic. We can stop this, but got to be action, action, action. So, Garland, I just want to make sure I've got this. And I realize you did a 1-hour special the other night. You're going to do one later this week. We're going to work with you so we can get our own crafted 1 hour with you on the 6 o'clock hour. And we're going to figure out when we can do it. But I just want to hit reset because people have known you for years and you've hung into this fight for years. They've tried to throw you into bankruptcy or everything. You guys are very detail oriented. The reason that the ballots are at the FBI and the reason that even their top lawyers, right, could not win to get the ballots back so they can destroy them. One of the reasons, there's many groups down in Georgia that are fighting your patriots, is your group, which is one of the more important, your attention to detail. Now, you have gone back, as Garland Favorito and Voter GA will do, you and your team have gone through everything that Bill Pulte, and Bill Pulte is an American patriot and a hero, and the John Solomon Task Force pulled together, had the intelligence agency sign off, redacted where they had to redact, and I sometimes think it's over-redacted, but hey, that's just an opinion of mine. They said because to get the intelligence agencies to sign off, they had to do that, fine. You've gone through all the documents, and now you guys are putting out, you're doing a 1-hour presentation of which we will get you up to make sure it's handcrafted for the Warren Posse. Now, that being said, of all the Chinese Communist Party interference, the Chinese Communist Party influence, all the thing that shocks you the most, and quite frankly that shocked me the most, is the unified team effort by the intelligence community of the United States of America, and not one or two bad apples, but a systemic focus on making sure that this information, number one, wasn't really stopped, and number two, that the information about it was suppressed, right? You're as shocked as I am. But you've singled out one particular individual, you said, that jumps through the page here of her arrogance of bragging about what they're doing, which is running, wait for it, a shadow government. Garland Favorito, the floor is yours.
Well, exactly right, Steve. So this is just one example, which is very clear. Another one which we want to report on in our next press release is the NSA withholding this information from the President of the United States in the fall of 2020. Another huge example to describe what you're saying. And as you said, there's multiple intelligence agencies involved. There were a couple of true career patriots who were trying to get this information to the president. They were mostly in DNI. That's I think it's the other thing that just floors me is that when you see this massive intelligence cover-up and you combine it with the Chinese influence operation that was beyond my wildest imagination as to what was going on, and we'll have to talk about that in our 1-hour show. But the Chinese Communist government was operating. They were running a massive election influence campaign, in addition to the examples of election interference, such as this intelligence report, which was trying to explain the 20,000 fake driver's license that came in from China, that type of thing. You had, and we talked about the voter roll manipulation or the unauthorized access.
This is why people in Georgia showed up, and they said, hey, I need to vote. And they go, no, you've already voted. This is why they didn't buy this commercially. What they did is they hacked it with a unit from the People's Liberation Army that just focuses on cyber hacking. They're the tops in the world. That's what they did. In addition, the apparatus and the Democrats have had no answer for what the 250,000, 270,000 foreign nationals on the voter rolls. This is systemic. This is not just one or two incompetent election clerks, right? And that's 4 states. And you see Jackie Sherrill lying, Mikey Sherrill bald-faced lying about the situation in Jersey. Talk to me about Flores. Talk to me about the press release today, and why are you singling out the woman at the FBI who bragged about she was running a shadow government, sir?
Well, it's such a simple example of what we have been saying all along. I mean, the deep state is real, and this proves it. We have another one with the NSA withholding the information from the president of the United States in a presidential daily brief. That's another example. But this one is really particularly egregious. And here's what's interesting, Steve. When she says that she's running the shadow government, the response she got from another director in another FBI office was, you do what you have to do, with a smiley face, hang in there. So it's not just her, as you said, it's a systemic problem. This one happens to just be within the FBI, but again, as you said, it is widespread through, in particular, the NSA and as well as the other intelligence agencies.
What are you recommending that the president do about this? Because you want to close the enthusiasm gap. Have a throwdown with John Thune about the blocking of the Save America Act and not allowing the president to have recess appointments. Of course, the president for the first time, and I don't know who briefed him on this, but the president for the first time put out a meme on True Social this weekend about exactly that topic, about how many recess appointments Reagan had, the first Bush, the second Bush, President Trump in 5.5 years, 0. What are you recommending? What is Voter GA recommending about, after you guys have read it and curated it and thought about it, what are you recommending the president do, sir?
Well, we obviously, Steve, have a national security crisis. And to your point, Congress isn't going to solve this. They have been, even though the House has done their job, the Senate has not, unfortunately. So the president is going to have to, I think, seriously consider a national security declaration of some kind, because we can't have the communist Chinese government infiltrating our intelligence agencies and our elections and expect to have a legitimate election. And the other thing, Steve, that we haven't mentioned, but I'll throw in there, is that there are several documents that show that they had hired journalists to produce articles that denigrated the president. So that is just, we can't have this type of situation. It seems like to me the Chinese Communist government has done to America what the CIA did to other countries in terms of influencing their elections.
Your recommendation, because the other side of this, folks, I'm going to connect some dots, this whole thing on AI that's exploded over the last 48 hours. Scott Bessent, the Secretary of Treasury, saying that these open AI models from the Chinese are all off a stolen intellectual property from the Americans. You have this huge issue now that the export controls around the advanced chips, of which the War Room's our recommendation is that no chips whatsoever go to the Chinese Communist Party, none, 0, the null set. And in fact, everybody should be prosecuted, including NVIDIA, that are working on a black market. We're finding out now that the Chinese Communist Party are getting the most advanced chips. How are they getting? Oh, they're getting them through a third party in Thailand. It's just like shipping these chips to the Middle East. The black market for these advanced chips, and the Chinese Communist Party is doing it. Why is nobody pursuing it aggressively except for a handful of patriots? Because of their infiltration everywhere and the money they're spreading everywhere. And you can see that in these documents. Their number one objective after they tore up the trade deal in May of 2019 was to remove Donald Trump. Well, they had to do it with a biological weapon coming from Wuhan, or had to steal the 2020 election. By hook or crook, they were getting Trump out of there. They had to, because Trump is the first president in our country's history really to stand up to him. I want to hold you through one more break real quickly. Is your recommendation to the president, should he hold this summit with Xi at the end of September, sir?
Well, that's a great question, Steve. And I try to stay in my lane because what they are going to discuss, I don't know. But we definitely have an issue that needs to be resolved with China. So if the president if that's his objective, I certainly would support that.
Hang on. I'm going to ask you this question. I want the answer when you get back. Is in the information you've seen in the interference of the Chinese Communist Party and others, is Ossoff, who they're talking about as a presidential candidate 2028, is he actually a legitimate standing United States senator? I notice that Ossoff doesn't want to touch that. It's like a hand grenade with a pin in it. Garland Favorito next, Jack Posobiec on deck on a Monday in the War Room.
Old school online security tools leave you half.
Hey, Wayne Allen Root, America Speaks. You call in and we talk about it. Your opinions, your comments, your questions. How do you call in? 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-7668. The show airs at midnight, East Coast time, 9 p.m. Pacific, but we tape it at 6 p.m. East Coast time, 3 p.m. Pacific. So you call in at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I talk to you, and it airs that night at midnight. The phone number again, 800-347-ROOT. That number is 24/7. You can leave voicemails. We play your voicemails on the air as well.
Hey, Wayne, what do you think about Obama?
He was a communist, socialist, Marxist radical.
I agree.
Or you can email me, wayneroot@gmail.com. I'll read your email live on the air with your comments or questions. America Speaks.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
Hi, this is Chris from Colorful Colorado. I'm drawbridge in the Getter Chat. I trust no one for my news except Real America's Voice. So if anyone asks, I was never here.
I'm Patriot Mermaid, and I'm from West Haven, Connecticut. When the mainstream media wasn't giving us the truth, I went and looked for the truth and found it on Real America's Voice. Come and join us. Come on.
It's Mama Love in northern Minnesota. You know, a collective voice is much louder than a single voice. Thanks, Rav, for giving us a place to chat and connect. See y'all in chat.
The reality here, and this is why we got to get to the bottom of it. I realize everybody, all the Republican rhinos, all the Republican establishment don't want to touch this. Why don't they want to touch it? Because they're complicit in not stopping it and not putting to an end and not fighting for it. They're also complicit in these people that for years and years and years, they allowed in the deep state. The country is not in a crisis with our major cities controlled by Marxist jihadists because the Republican Party was doing its job, okay? They were controlled opposition. And this is the situation we find ourselves in. That's why they don't want to touch the voter fraud and the stealing of elections. Quite frankly, that's why the McConnell construct, because that's all you're dealing with in the Senate, doesn't want to cooperate with President Trump on anything. They treat him like a lame duck. You know why? They want Trump gone. They want Trump gone. And they want Trumpism gone. Ours is a populist nationalist movement. They are neoliberal neocons. They detest, more than they detest, why all of a sudden they're all talking, the communism and Marxism. Why are they talking about this now? Because their playbook, they've delivered nothing. Jack Posobiec published on Humans, 2 years ago? We've got Bradley Thayer coming out of the book he's worked with over a year that's coming out in the middle of August on confronting communism and Marxism and taking it down. Why is it the War Room has been talking about this for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden, Polly Pockets, Johnson, all these guys, all of a sudden, it's Marxism, it's communism, because they got nothing else. They're not populist and they're not nationalist. So, Garland, since they've tortured you for 6 years for your efforts here, is Ossoff, and man, if you mention this, they don't, MSNBC, oh my God, it's worse than Fauci. You guys are conspiracy theorists. It's nuts, because Ossoff right now is probably their dark horse candidate for the presidential nomination at 28. Is Ossoff a legitimate or illegitimate senator, sir? Did he actually win that election, or was that also stolen?
Steve, I think I can answer that question with the Secretary of State's own report. If you go to our voterga.org studies tab and you look on page 18, you'll see the election results from the morning after the election. And they show that at that point in time, 158 of 159 counties had reported, only 13 precincts left to report in Fulton County. And John Ossoff's opponent, David Perdue, the sitting senator of David Perdue, had a 78,000 vote margin over the runoff margin. So he had 78,000 excess votes over what he needed, what Ossoff would have needed to even cause a runoff. That's with 13 precincts left. They were that's only a few thousand votes left to count. There's no way that Ossoff could have made up that difference, but somehow he magically did, according to Fulton County, and that caused a runoff in which Ossoff won in January of 2021. So the bottom line is that the Secretary of State's own reports show that Ossoff did not legitimately make the runoff in the November 2020 election.
And the rat's nest that is Fulton County, sir, we're still fighting today. This is why they just went to court to get the ballots back. The Democratic Party understands, not just the presidential, they need the line of defense that they will never give up is Fulton County, because inside the rat's nest that is Fulton County explains the entire thing. Does it not, Garland Favorito?
Well, absolutely, Stephen. This is why they have hid those ballots for 5 years and violated Georgia Open Records Request law multiple times. They are still refusing to give up ballots and even the ballot images, which we've already got through our court case and discovery. But that is why they have hidden these ballots. And to change the conversation, this is why they indicted so many patriots in Georgia, but also Donald Trump. They wanted to send Donald Trump away to jail for 50 or 60 years from Fulton County, the most corrupt
county in this country, and that's saying something. When you think about Detroit and other counties in this country, the railhead of corruption, and remember, the Republican establishment and Brian Kemp have done nothing about this. They did nothing but fight Garland Favorito and other patriots, Cleta Mitchell and many others, about getting to the bottom of 2020, and particularly the Senate races. They did nothing but fight it. They did nothing but thwart it. And then when Trump was indicted, they just sat back and let it go. This is the rot that is in the Republican Party, and this is why there's no enthusiasm for the Republican Party. Where there's enthusiasm for is MAGA. The populist nationalist movement in this country can dominate. The first thing we have to do is overthrow the rotting husk of a Republican Party that's too gutless to confront Chinese Communist Party interference from other nations, and they've turned this country over to foreigners. Garland Favorito, where can people go where can they get all the information about Ossoff and the illegitimate, he's an illegitimate senator, full stop. Where do they get the information on that? And sir, where they get the information of this analysis, this 1 hour presentation that you're doing on having gone through the entire dump of Pulte, the director of DNI, the acting director of DNI, and John Solomon from Real America's Voice, who's now leading a task force inside the White House. Where do they go?
So the document I just mentioned is on the voterga.org studies tab. It's our VoterGA security recommendations that we made for the House Election Study Committee. And it's in there. It gives a complete history. If you click on the studies tab, it'll give you the complete history of all the problems that Georgia has had. So that is one way to go. By the way, this was produced we're all volunteers. We don't take salaries. We have done this for years as volunteers, both Tamara and myself, and a whole slew of other folks that Caroline and Jason Frazier and all these folks. So we're all volunteers. And then the other thing, Steve, in regards to the declassification document, I'm happy to do I think we should do a special thing just for the War Room Posse on that.
Perfect.
I'm available the next couple of days before we go out of town.
Okay, we'll take you up on that, Garland. Appreciate you. One more time, where do people go to get all the information about what you're putting up about this?
It's voterga.org, voterga.org, and we are an all-volunteer, nonpartisan organization. Any donations are tax deductible. Thank you for all the posse has been so great for us and help us keep going. So we thank you, Steve, and the War Room Posse as well.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. By the way, Pulte's also announced another round of layoffs. I just want to make sure we're not playing into the hands of the CIA, but Pulte's cutting out the deep staters that are anti-Trump from all these intelligence apparatuses. I got Jack on the phone. Jack, first off, I got so much more to go into with you, the war, Sam Faddis, all of it. But I just want to ask you right there about Flores, about these documents that came out, about her bragging about she was running a shadow government, and she had people give her a thumbs up or the smiley face and, keep working, other members of the plot to destroy the president. I'm asking Cash, bro, what's going on, man? That's a government gangster right there. Let's roll, okay? She should be one of the first ones perp walked. Your thoughts, sir, coming from the intelligence community, your thoughts.
Well, Steve, thanks again for having me on, and we'll get the technical difficulties sorted out by human events time, of course. And Steve, look, Catherine Herridge, I think, put out a very, very serious interview as well last night, where she was talking about this former senior CIA operations officer who's blowing the whistle now on the same thing, the shadow government. This is what we're told, is that there's a shadow government that believes that their success, they measure success, and I saw this when I was in the intelligence community, and this is one of the many reasons I had to walk away, was that they believe their success was blocking the president's initiatives. They believe their job was to, quote, defend the United States, remember, defend our democracy from President Trump. And what do they mean by our democracy? They always mean the interagency. They always mean the regime. They always mean the blob of Washington, D.C. That's what it's all been about. And of course, this is, and I've said for years that it's not elite capture by China. It's an elite merger with China. Steve, case in point, by the way, when they talk about, they say, oh, Russia is targeting, Iranian bases. Excuse me. We know that it's the Chinese Communist Party with their satellites, the Beidou system, that was posting images of our aircraft carriers steaming all the way to the Gulf in the early days of the Iran conflict. We know that it was the Chinese Communist Party that's providing this targeting information to the Iranians from the very start. So whether or not the Russians are as well, that might be on a classified system, but we know publicly that China has been doing so. And yet you don't hear the same chorus from the D.C. interagency that you do about China. And so we see the same thing down in Georgia when we hear that it was China that, of course, targeted our elections. And by the way, I'm the kind of guy who I've always said straight up, like, I can kind of understand Raphael Warnock being elected in Georgia. I don't like it, but I can kind of understand it. But John Ossoff, that was just obviously stolen. It was just obviously stolen. And now this guy, they want to run him to be, of course, they want him to be president if he can win this election, again, going up against Mike Collins. So that's what it's all about there. It's all about getting these Barack Obama-style types all over the country. They got Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania. I see this guy as sort of a Josh Shapiro archetype. They had Buttigieg. They were able to get him up through South Bend, Indiana. They moved over to Michigan. He was looking at a Senate seat, ultimately didn't run, wants to run for president. And you can see the archetype of this style of a technocratic Democrat that comes out from the system, similar to Obama, that they want running all over the country. And so you have to put all of this together, Steve, that when they talk about defending our democracy, that's what they literally mean. You just have to change the word democracy with our system, the regime.
When you have something that's in boldface print, like you have Flores talking about the shadow government she's running and bragging about it to her other conspirators, and then you have Catherine Herridge's great breaking news about the former CIA whistleblower, what is it going to take for law enforcement to step up here? This has got to be a priority. We've got a minute on this side, Jack. Obviously, you're going to stick with us. But what are your thoughts? Why are these people not being rolled up right now? This is a clear and present danger to the nation.
Well, Steve, this is right off the bat. If you can find any time where they were countermanding the president of the United States, number one, they should obviously be fired. Number two, they should obviously be sent out. And number three, if they were willfully hiding information or conducting anything in violation of the orders of the president of the United States, if they were doing so, again, at the behest or for the benefit of a foreign nation, then that is a crime. And that's absolutely something that should be looked at under the Espionage Act. That's a clear violation of federal law.
Jack, hang on. We'll hold you to the break and come back in a moment. A lot more to talk about. Big meeting with Ukraine and Israel in Washington, D.C. at the same time. Is that war starting to merge together because of Zelensky's action with our weapon systems? Stick around. I want to thank Birch Gold, our sponsor. I think maybe now more than ever, the end of the dollar empire, the 9th free edition, 9th free installments coming out, but already got 8 free installments to keep you occupied, understand everything about capital markets, fiat currency, the history of the country, and particularly its populist economics. Birchgold.com, promo code War Room, yes. Promo code Bannon. Hey, me, promo code Bannon. Go check it out today. Talk to Philip Patrick and the team today.
Life insurance is a wonderful asset, but what happens when you no longer need it or you can't afford?
Hey, Wayne Allen Root, America Speaks. You call in and we talk about it. Your opinions, your comments, your questions. How do you call in? 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-7668. The show airs at midnight, East Coast time, 9 p.m. Pacific, but we tape it at 6 p.m. East Coast time, 3 p.m. Pacific. So you call in at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I talk to you, and it airs that night at midnight. The phone number again, 800-347-ROOT. That number is 24/7. You can leave voicemails. We play your voicemails on the air as well.
Hey, Wayne, what do you think about Obama?
He was a communist, socialist, Marxist radical.
I agree.
Or you can email me, wayneroot@gmail.com. I'll read your email live on the air with your comments or questions. America Speaks.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
Hi, this is Chris from Colorful Colorado. I'm drawbridge in the Getter Chat. I trust no one for my news except Real America's Voice. So if anyone asks, I was never here.
I'm Patriot Mermaid, and I'm from West Haven, Connecticut. When the mainstream media wasn't giving us the truth, I went and looked for the truth and found it on Real America's Voice. Come and join us. Come on.
It's Mama Love in northern Minnesota. You know, a collective voice is much louder than a single voice. Thanks, Rav, for giving us a place to chat and connect. See y'all in chat.
I mean, look, that's where you are. You're in the Middle East. Everybody's constantly changing their deal. They're lying, they're shifting, they're bobbing, they're weaving. That's going to be the nature of the beast. I mean, you know, the way you get through that is you hold course and you understand this is our bottom line and this is what we will do and this is what we won't do. And I really don't care about you guys dancing around with all this nonsense. Don't give them a dime. And don't believe anything they say until you see it proven in the light of day. Promises mean absolutely nothing.
It was also said that we were going to try to do stabilization between Syria and Hezbollah and Lebanon and Israel. Isn't that just sucking us back into this quagmire? I mean, Israel, if they want to do the Greater Israel Project or any project, that's they're a sovereign nation, just like Britain got their sovereignty back with Brexit 10 years ago. Tomorrow, like we're fighting for our sovereignty here, they got to be cut loose to do what they do. Now, it's that we can't be part of that. We can't step in every 2 minutes. Now it looks like we're trying to arbitrate that. And these two groups are going to go at each other, and Syria is going to get into it because you know what? It's just the way it is. Nothing on earth is going to, no piece of paper, no board or commission. It's just one group hates the other and they're going after it. The other group's going to pound back all the time. Syria's going to get involved. They're not a good actor, particularly the guy, as President Trump says, he's doing a good job in Syria, but he's no choir boy, right? The whole group of there's no choir boys. That's why you can't, the more you engage, the more you get deals and we're going to do this and bring stability. No, we're not going to bring stability because the region is never going to be stable given its nature. Am I wrong in that, sir?
Amen, Steve. Look, stop trying to fix all of this. If they ever want to work it out, they can work it out, but we're not going to fix it. And look, I'm just going to say this. Jolani, head of, the guy who runs Syria now, the guy's al-Qaeda. Okay, I get it. He wears a suit now, and he claims he's not part of al-Qaeda anymore. Inviting the al-Qaeda Sunni extremists from Syria to go fight the Shia extremist crazy people in Lebanon is not going to fix the problem. Those guys have been at war for 1,500 years over the question of who gets to succeed the prophet, and they're going to keep fighting forever, and it's not going to make it better to turn them on each other. They already do that enough on their own.
Is it, in your mind, is the president...
Okay, hang over a second. Thank you. Irreplaceable. Unbelievable. Such a great man. First started coming on the show about
because of his leadership in the grassroots movement in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania about the stolen election. And obviously we had him on for years and years and years on his take. He wrote an amazing book about the CIA I read. I think the book came out in like 2008, 2009. Just an incredible book and such a wise man. We're going to do a special tomorrow from 5 to 7 that we're going to tie what Sam Faddis said and what he meant, right, to our movement and to the nation, and kind of his guidance to us over the last couple of years, directly to the breaking news of the day. Because tomorrow, Jack Posobiec, I want to get you in here. Tomorrow, Zelensky and Netanyahu are both here, and Sam was the best at walking through both of the conflicts. Poso, knowing how close you are and what you think about the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we lost a giant Saturday night, sir.
No, Steve, that's exactly right. And, you know, there never was a Pennsylvania patriot like Sam Faddis who could quite do it all the way that he did. Not only was a patriot, served his country, but in the CIA, served his country the right way in terms of the intelligence service, but also went back and did what he could at the grassroots level in Pennsylvania, and certainly someone that I looked up to constantly as a role model in many of the things that I attempt to do in my career. And, you know, when you look at the way that because he had such a wealth of experience that for folks who are out there reading the headlines, trying to read between it, Sam wasn't reading the headlines, okay? Sam was there when all of that was written. And that's what people need to understand, is that he understood the players like none other. And that's why he understood, and he predicted, actually, that we would see it coming, that Washington does not like to view things in vacuums. Washington likes to view things combined. He understood D.C. indelibly. And so he predicted that it would be Washington that would try to push, again, the same deep state would be trying to work with allies abroad to try to merge the Ukraine war and the Iran conflict into one global situation. And of course, this is something that we had warned about, for the war room had warned about, human events had warned about for years, because now you've got yourself in a two-front conflict. That's where we were talking for years and years about the level of our interceptors, the level of our Patriot missiles, the level of our ability to provide for the air defense, again, in all of these conflicts, if we were going to be spread thin, not to mention, of course, Taiwan, which is always potentially on the bubble. This is exactly what we warned against, and Sam Faddis was the guy who realized what was going to happen.
It was also, Jack, you're going to stick with me. You're going to be in the first block. We're also going to go to Oxford, where Eric Metaxas is, and then we're going to have a breakdown of one of these countries trying to put $1 billion in back of influencers, which is pretty shocking. We'll break all that down in a new report that's coming out. Jack, it was also his effort. The number of times we would talk, and he was at some Patriots event in Commonwealth, and whether we could hook in by video or give a talk, I mean, this guy didn't have a free weekend. He dedicated his life, not just in his active duty with the military and then the CIA, but then he dedicated these years after that to basically being one of the leaders of the MAGA movement. And I mean down in the trenches where this thing has to be won, and that is in the stealing of elections. Posobiec, give me 30 seconds before we go to break.
Okay, that's exactly right. And that's what it's going to take. You have to fight on the home front. You have to understand what's going on the waterfront as well. And there was none better at it than Sam Faddis.
Jack Posobiec, let's stick around. Jack's going to get the technical issues worked out with Real America's Voice. So his 2 o'clock show, following Charlie Kirk, you'll get to see his lovely visage. He's going to stick around with us on phone. We've got a lot more to go through. Also, we're going to Oxford about the American Revolution, because Eric Metaxas is there to talk about it. By the way, I gave the wrong promo code. Remember, it's /Bannon. End of the Dollar Empire, birchgold.com /Bannon, End of the Dollar Empire. And you get to talk to Philip Patriot team. Do that and do it today. Short break.
I'm Wayne Allen Root. America Speaks. You call in and we talk about it. Your opinions, your comments, your questions. How do you call in? 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-7668. The show airs at midnight, East Coast time, 9 p.m. Pacific, but we tape it at 6 p.m. East Coast time, 3 p.m. Pacific. So you call in at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I talk to you, and it airs that night at midnight. The phone number again, 800-347-ROOT. That number is 24/7. You can leave voicemails. We play your voicemails on the air as well.
Hey, Wayne, what do you think about Obama?
He was a communist, socialist, Marxist radical.
I agree.
Or you can email me, wayneroot@gmail.com. I'll read your email live on the air with your comments or questions. America Speaks.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
Of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish, in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Monday, 27 July, year of our Lord 2026. Jack Brasobic's with us. We're going to go to Oxford in a moment with Eric Metaxas. We're going to cover the globe this morning. I want to thank our sponsors, particularly Patriot Mobile down there in Texas, Glenn and Jenny Story, two of the great patriots, a Christian-based company that supports your Christian values called 972 Patriot. You get a customer service person. I'm going to walk you through why it's the best phone service in the world and why you should switch and how you can switch, how you save money. But if you want to break out in a prayer session, go for it. You're going to get somebody with an East Texas accent. That's all in. So 972 Patriot, do it today. Talk to these folks about why it's the best phone service in the world. And, man, they've got your back. The efforts they have done down there, I think it's $3 million to support, whether it's first responders, Second Amendment, all of it, groups that you want supported. So check it out today. Patriot Mobile, 972 Patriot. Also, Tax Network USA. Scott Besson's wrestling with, he kind of oversees the IRS. We had the director of the IRS on the other day. He's up front. They got to collect every penny they think they're owed. There's the rub. Go to Tax Network USA. Get a special hotline for you, 866-513-5516. If you think there's a difference of opinion, right, let the Tax Network USA people work you through and come up with the facts. And so you can see what the bid and the ask is between you and the IRS. 866-513-5516. Totally free. Doesn't cost you anything. No obligation. It's called a discovery call. Do it today. And I mean today. Don't delay. Your anxiety will decrease. Jack Posobiec, as we've warned for a long time, if you want to have a really, we talk about the early days of the kinetic part of the Third World War. If you want to accelerate, if you're an accelerationist and want to accelerate the kinetic part of the Third World War, what you do is merge the two fronts. That would be the front in Ukraine, in the front with Israel in this situation with the Persians, and now with the Houthis, that stretches from Lebanon in Syria, all the way through across the Arc to the Red Sea and the Houthis in the Suez Canal. Jack Posobiec, how dangerous a territory is this, and why is Zelensky driving towards this, sir?
Well, look, Steve, we got to remember, of course, that this is the clash of civilizations. This is the area at the center of the world island, as Mackinder would have it, where all civilizations are constantly vying for purchase, for one-upsmanship, to see who is able to attain prominence and influence in the world. So this is always where civilizations clash, whether it be the Persians, the Russians, the Byzantines, of course. Alexander the Great. People are talking about the Greek epics yet again, even though I personally didn't care for Christopher Nolan's movie. That people have to understand this goes back thousands of years, and this is a hornet's nest, and it's always been the Bloodlands, which is really just this crescent, just this bloody crescent of instability that runs from, of course, eastern Ukraine and those borderlands all the way down into the Middle East. And what happened this last Saturday isn't getting a lot of attention, but I think that it really should. And this is when Zelensky sent a couple of, we don't know if exactly it was drones or the strike that took place on an Iranian cargo ship that was headed up from the Caspian Sea, not the Black Sea, across the Black Sea into the Caspian Sea, across the Caucasus, struck an Iranian supply ship that was sending a supply, it looks like, of drones to Russia. Now, we know that Iran has been sending those supplies for quite some time, but this is the first time that Zelensky has targeted them directly, and to do so in the Caspian Sea, which is that sea that connects the Caucasus with Russia and Iran. Of course, this is a key development which not only could open up a new front in both of those wars, but it is a front where, in fact, the wars would merge. Now, we see this done for the political reasoning, because we can also see on the political side, Zelensky and Netanyahu are now both traveling to Washington. The Iranian foreign minister, Araghchi, also pointed out, he claimed that Zelensky is doing this at the behest of Israel, because they want to merge Europe and the Middle East into one large war. And Steve, when it comes down to it, this is one of the most dangerous things that you could find, because Dan Kane and all the other senior generals out there, everyone who's looked at this says the biggest risk of the Iran conflict is drawing in Iran. Iran's the junior partner in many respects in terms of their economic access. But if you draw in Russia, if you draw in China to a conflict like that, that has the degree of escalation and spillover into a wider conflict that, as you say, Steve, wouldn't just be a two-front war for the United States. It has the potential to escalate into something far bigger than I think anyone can even imagine right now.
We've got all this today about artificial intelligence and the Chinese Communist Party, and it's out there that chips are being sold through third parties, particularly like I think Thailand is where the chips came from, or what they're doing. Scott Bessent's out saying, "Hey, we're going to shut down through tariffs and other means the Chinese stealing IP, which is even leading to their OpenAI." We got Xi scheduled for the books for late September. I'm going to get to the Russians back in a second, but the big partner here is China. This is why we got blockade, all the oil coming out. No oil should go out. They shouldn't be able to get any oil, and they should monetize it. But correct me if I'm wrong, Poso, don't they have an overland route that's our great ally in Pakistan? The overland route, how they're getting rearmed today with component pieces, is the overland route through Pakistan, which Pakistan happens to be the number one recipient and the number one partner of One Belt, One Road. The Chinese Communist Party is definitely their ally, and they're supplying component parts to the Persians in the overland route that I don't think as of yet we're bombing. Is that correct, Poso?
Well, Steve, that route's been there for quite some time. And, of course, that component of the Belt and Road Initiative that you're discussing is the key region why it is that China has been so focused for years, of course, on Xinjiang and the Uyghurs. And we've talked about that and their treatment at length. But people need to realize that there is a geographic and geopolitical reason for this, because it is exactly at that point in just across the Hindu Kush, right, just across the border from Pakistan into China, where Xinjiang lies. The city of Kashgar is right there, where they filmed the Kite Runner movie. They filmed that over there, and a bunch of other stuff. And so people have to realize that this is all about the overland route that connects the world island. This is why China cares about the Uyghurs. They're not interested in, they don't care about a Turkic people that are set up there for no reason. They're trying to reconstitute the Silk Road, and they're doing so. And by the way, there's Chinese cars all over Europe, so they're doing so via maritime, and they're doing so via overland with all the principalities and countries from Asia Minor all the way through Central Asia and the Middle East to once again be principalities of China, the way they were in ancient times.
The McKinder theory, Alexander the Great, Caesar, Napoleon, Hitler, others, about the control of the world island by, who controls the center of the world island, controls the world island, who controls the world island, controls the world. That would be the Eurasian landmass, and throw in Africa. Homeland defense says, hey, guess what? If we defend the entire island of the Western Hemisphere from the Arctic to the tip, and we use our natural strategic pivot, which is not the heartland of things, we shouldn't be around the rim of it trying to fight a losing game, but the Central Pacific all the way through the three-island chain, because we are a Pacific nation, that is our defense, and that's what we have to focus on. Poso, you got a buried lead there, and I want to ask you, because people are saying, hey...
Before you change...
go ahead.
Before you change on that, Steve, what if the American McKinder strategy of the war room could be defending the Western island?
Exactly. That's where the three island chain of the Western Islands right there make you a Pacific nation. Jack, you got a buried lead in there. I just want to make sure we're clear about this. Zelensky and people are saying, hey, Russia's arming the Iranians. You mentioned right there that on the ship itself, there might have been actual drones from Iran, from Persia, going to Russia so they can continue to combat the Ukrainians. That would mean they got surplus of what they're even hitting us with in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. Your thoughts?
Well, Steve, look, this has been a key economic and military relationship for the Persians. It's been one that's been continuing. These supplies do continue. We've seen the Iranians be able to conduct their strikes. We know that there was, of course, that reporting about the president being warned off of the new Air Force One due to the threat of an Iranian strike or some kind of Iranian interception. And case in point is that, look, the way the distributed mosaic network of Iran's defenses is set up. They do the same thing with their military, with their defense infrastructure, with their manufacturing, with their military industrial base. They do this with their power grid, is that they have small facilities all over the country in a distributed model. So us taking out one plant here, one plant there, whether it's whether it's a manufacturing plant, whether it's a power plant, that doesn't mean that it reduces their entire capacity. And Steve, they set themselves up. They set up their entire system this way for 50 years because they've been waiting for this war. And I'm not saying that they're winning, and far from it, by the way. I believe that Donald Trump, our president, has controlled the escalatory ladder. I am just saying that this is perhaps more complicated than folks in the Beltway would have you believe.
No, and that's why these meetings are so important tomorrow. Jack, where do people, you're going to be back up at 2 o'clock. You're back from your overseas trip, back up at 2 o'clock on Human Events Daily right here on Real America's Voice, following Andrew Colvett in the Charlie Kirk Show. We'll have the technical situation worked out so we can see the whole show. And then tomorrow night, 5 to 7, we're going to do a special regarding Sam Faddis, his life, his accomplishments, also and to the great insights he gave us in every part of the world, but particularly the Middle East. And we're going to tie that directly to the news of the day. The news of the day, I think, might have something to do, Jack, tomorrow with Zelensky and Netanyahu in the imperial capital at the same time.
That's exactly right, Steve. And that's and it's also kind of interesting that you're seeing the war roomization of the UK. So I'm back from London. Raheem's over in London. You got Metaxas now over in Oxford. I don't know what's going on, but it might be a little bit of reverse 1776. You know what I'm talking about?
Exactly. Raheem's actually there doing serious work, as is Metaxas. But I mean, Raheem's really over there. Working with Nigel. Last thing, there's a documentarian that made raw footage about Lindsey Graham for a couple of months, and they got Lindsey on the night of the bombing, and he tells about what he told Trump. He told Trump this will take just like a week, and then all of a sudden they're going to rise up and overthrow. So you can see what the intelligence service were feeding right to Lindsey Graham. Your closing thoughts before we bounce, sir.
Look, I'm just gonna I'm not gonna speak ill of the late senator, but I am going to say that footage, Steve, watching it made me sick to my stomach. The giddiness in the voice, the levity, clapping and cheering, knowing that that Americans were going into harm's way. I mean, this is serious business. And it just doesn't seem like he was taking it seriously at all, and it made me sick to my stomach to watch something like that. But that's a person who's sending 5,000 sailors at a clip on these aircraft carriers in harm's way.
In harm's way. We're going to play those clips probably this evening. Jack, you're the Associated Press of the MAGA movement on Twitter and Getter. Where do people go?
All right, we're up at Jack Posobiec on Truth Social, on Telegram, and of course, Instagram and Getter as well. Make sure you are there because you never know when the censor hammer swings back down.
Thank you, sir. See you later. 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. tomorrow night. Natalie Winters and Jack Posobiec will be co-hosting. We will have many other people on in memoriam to the great Sam Faddis. Short commercial break. We're going to Oxford next with Eric Metaxas.
Our country is under attack.
The America we know is at risk of not being.
Hey, Wayne Island Root, America Speaks. You call in and we talk about it. Your opinions, your comments, your questions. How do you call in? 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-7668. The show airs at midnight, East Coast time, 9 p.m. Pacific, but we tape it at 6 p.m. East Coast time, 3 p.m. Pacific. So you call in at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I talk to you, and it airs that night at midnight. The phone number again, 800-347-ROOT. That number is 24/7. You can leave voicemails. We play your voicemails on the air as well.
Hey, Wayne, what do you think about Obama?
He was a communist, socialist, Marxist radical.
I agree.
Or you can email me, wayneroot@gmail.com. I'll read your email live on the air with your comments or questions. America Speaks.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
Hi, this is Chris from colorful Colorado. I'm Drawbridge in the Getter chat. I trust no one for my news except Real America's Voice. So if anyone asks, I was never here.
I'm Patriot Mermaid, and I'm from West Haven, Connecticut. When the mainstream media wasn't giving us the truth, I went and looked for the truth and found it on Real America's Voice. Come and join us. Come on.
Mama Love in northern Minnesota. You know, a collective voice is much louder than a single voice. Thanks, Rav, for giving us a place to chat and connect. See y'all in chat.
Okay, we're going to Oxford. Metaxas, you're doing your Socrates in the City. You did your last one in Lexington and Concord. Are today you carrying the flag of revolution to the heart of the England's intelligentsia at Oxford and Cambridge, sir?
Not exactly, but I'd like to think that when the Holy Spirit arrives, God is on the move, liberty is here. I'll tell you, it is fascinating, Steve. We're doing, I've been doing Socrates in the City for 25 years. We do these retreats in different places. So here we're in Oxford, England. Why? Because I love C.S. Lewis, J.R.R. Tolkien. That's a big reason we're here. But it's a fascinating thing, the cultural difference. One of the themes of my book, Revolution, is the cultural divide between the British elites of Georgian era England and the American elites. The American elites were profoundly Christian. Today we would think of them as evangelical, Bible-based Christians. They believed in virtue and principle and honor. The British elites, there's tremendous decadence. And it's a funny thing because, I mentioned we're doing the Socrates in the City thing. Victoria Jackson of Saturday Night Live, she's going to be with us here. And it's just a great group of people. But 2 days ago, I was in Nashville with Victoria and her husband. We were having a conversation. And she said, I love the part in your book. I'm not going to do her high-pitched voice. I love the part of your book where you write about the engagement party that General Burgoyne had or whatever. And I realized I'd forgotten about this. I go out of my way in the book, Revolution, to talk about the extraordinary decadence of the British elites. It's just a level of decadence that we kind of forget that our guys, okay, the Minutemen, Paul Revere, many of them working class, they were fighting elite folks like, Gentleman Johnny Burgoyne, they weren't just elites, they were effete. There was something in that culture. And it's funny because it's the same culture today. I keep saying that the story of the revolution, it's like Hollywood and Manhattan elites with their values, with their decadent values, sneering at faith, fighting with people from a small town in Oklahoma. They speak the same language, but the cultural divide is absolutely extraordinary. And so in the book, there's a few examples you've read about.
Yeah, tell us about Gentleman Johnny Burgoyne, because he was one of those important field officers, and his surrender at Saratoga was a game changer. Tell me about General Johnny Burgoyne, who was the top of the top, right?
Yeah, well, one of the reasons I loved writing this book, is that there are characters like Gentleman Johnny Burgoyne. I remember in 5th grade hearing about Gentleman Johnny Burgoyne, and you realize that this guy was a fop, he was a dandy, and he was somebody that he really had. He was at the center of British elite culture. And I go out of my way to tell the story. Before he comes over to America, he basically throws a party for his, I think it's a nephew, and it's an engagement party. And it is the most extravagant, decadent party. It's in the book. You read the book, so you read. But you almost can't believe the level of decadence for this party. No expense is spared. It's something that most people would say, this is a little much. You're spending a lot of money. Are you sure?
The reason you need to get this book and you need to get copies for the younger people is that you just said something about, you heard about Johnny Burgoyne in the 5th grade. Well, trust me, in American schools today, they ain't here, unless you're homeschooled, you ain't hearing about Johnny Burgoyne in the Saratoga campaign in the 5th grade. This is why you got to get the book, right?
Well, listen, Burgoyne is one of those characters. I fall in love with some of these characters, even the bad guys. Like, you just think, I got to write about this guy because he is so entertaining. He's a playwright. He's hanging out with David Garrick and he's writing plays. And then he decides, he wants to be in the military. And when he comes to America, basically he's sent over with General Howe and General Clinton. And this is in 1775. So, he arrives right after Lexington and Concord and right before the Battle of Bunker Hill. And he has this crazy idea that he's going to bring reconciliation between the colonies. And then when he sees the bloodbath of Bunker Hill, he kind of changes his tune. But to me, it's comedy. When you get to the Battle of Saratoga, he's so pompous that he's writing these letters, trying to get the Americans, trying to terrorize them, basically say, like, if you do not, surrender to me, to Gentleman Johnny Burgoyne, we will crush you. We will unleash the savages on you, because they knew that the Native Americans that the British very, very cynically allied with were sadistic. They would scalp living people. They would torture, they would do all this stuff. So he is just one of the characters in the book that you think, are you making this up? Is this for a novel? No, this is real. These characters were real. And again, the level of decadence with Burgoyne in 1777, he oversees the turning point of the war when we crush the British at the Battle of Saratoga. It's just a moment that changes everything. At that point, Burgoyne realizes, okay, I guess I'm not going to be the hero that I thought I was. But it's just, there's so many characters like that. You know, they're drinking.
This is when France start taking it seriously. The book Revolution. Real quickly, the Eagle and Child Pub, the Inklings. C.S. Lewis and Tolkien. Talk to us about it. Give the audience, so I know, will be fascinated by all this about the Inklings.
Listen, I'll tell you, and I can come back on. I'll be here all week, but I'll tell you, I love it here. My wife and I, we love England. We were here on our honeymoon 30 years ago, okay? And every time there's a C.S. Lewis conference, we come to Oxford and Cambridge, right down the street. I mean, I could sprint there in 20 seconds. The Eagle and Child. This is the place where Tolkien and C.S. Lewis would meet. They would read to each other their works in progress. The Hobbit, the Chronicles of Narnia. They would read this to each other. They call it the Rabbit Room. It's a back room that they would gather and they drink their ale, and they're reading this stuff. You can't even imagine. And those are just two of the most famous Inklings, but there was just a number of literary figures. So I love C.S. Lewis. He's absolutely my favorite writer, and that's a big part of why I started Socrates in the City, so just to acquaint people with this kind of stuff that has a deeply Christian view. And I gotta say, since I'm in England, Americans always loved Lewis and Tolkien more than the British loved Lewis and Tolkien, because Americans tend to be more overtly Christian. Over here, it's kind of, you can feel it, obviously, when you're in England. It's spiritually a little bit darker, a little bit more pagan, but there's tons of Americans in Oxford. I get recognized on the street. There's so many evangelical conservative Christians in Oxford in the summer having events. So it's absolutely amazing. It is amazing, and I do love it here. We come here every year.
C.S. Lewis and Tolkien get the headlines, but my favorite was Charles Williams. If you ever get a chance, 2 books, War in Heaven and Descent into Hell. Not
a lot of people know about that stuff. God bless you for knowing about that. And one thing I got to say is that near here, Magdalen College was where Tolkien talked C.S. Lewis into accepting Jesus, because Lewis had become he believes in God, but I don't know about the Jesus thing. Tolkien says to him, the story of Jesus, it's the one true myth. You love myth. Myth has power. What if there was a myth of the dying God who's resurrected that once in history actually happened? And they were taking a late night walk on Addison's Walk. I've been there many times. We're going to go there in a couple of days. And Tolkien talks Lewis into thinking about this, and that leads to the conversion of C.S. Lewis, thanks to J.R.R. Tolkien. It's an amazing moment in the 20th century. 2 of the giants, I think the greatest authors of the 20th century, talking about this kind of stuff. It all happened here. You can tell I'm excited.
And you remember John McCain in the floor of the Senate accused MAGA of being the hobbits. Well, the hobbits from the Shire were the backbone of society, as Tolkien knew from his youth of the Shire.
Nobody knew it better than Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, and that's why they wrote what they did. They wanted, and this gets to the heart of it. They were not decadent. They were not cynical. They believed in heroism. They believed in sacrifice. They believed in the little guy fighting for something beautiful and good and true. And that's why their books are beautiful and powerful and stand today. And Christian faith is at the center of it. And I really think that's, when I think about liberty, that's why
your book Revolution talks about the sacred cause. These folks signed up for a sacred cause.
that was greater than themselves. That's the power of the book revolution.
Yeah.
Where do we get it right now? Where do we get it?
Well,
I want to make sure
you can go to Amazon. If you can find it in a Barnes & Noble, I would be surprised. Some Barnes & Noble carrying it, but basically right now the best place to get it is Amazon. You can read it tomorrow. I read the audio book in case somebody wants to do the audio book. That's my voice. But I'm very excited. It continues to sell well. Yesterday I was preaching at a church in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, talking about this book. Next weekend I'm going to be in Dallas. The weekend after that I'm going to be in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. After that, I'll be in San Jose, California. I've been everywhere, and everywhere I go, people say, I saw you on War Room. So it's kind of funny. To everywhere I go, people are greeting me and saying, say hello to Steve. So hello from everywhere.
Thank you. It's great the Word Posse's turned. They love the book. They've made the book a New York Times bestseller, one of the biggest selling, hottest books of the summer. Before you go, how many total hits on Newsmax and Fox News, sir?
Fox News has not had me on. Newsmax has had me on 3 very brief hits, but that was just right in the beginning. I hope they'll have me on again.
They got to have you on again. It's great. Chris Ruddy knows England. He loves England. Should have you on from London, from Oxford. Great week. We're going to check back in on an update on the Inklings later in the week. Say hi to everybody at Socrates in the City in Oxford. The movable feast of Socrates in the City. Eric, great job. People love the book. The book is Revolution, the sacred cause that is handed down to you through every patriot's grave to the current time. Yes, you are the same as the revolutionary generation. Think about the responsibility you have. Short commercial break. We'll be back for some shocking numbers in a moment.
All right, you guys, listen, here's something I realized about my retirement account that honestly caught me completely.
The radical left and the fake news media want you to believe that the people who were at the Capitol on January 6th are all criminals and terrorists. Do these people look like terrorists to you?
J6ers have been smeared and defamed by the media, persecuted by the government, and treated like terrorists.
They are Ben Burlew, Annie Howell, Damon Beckley, Barry Ramey, and Cindy Young, the real faces of January 6th.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
These J6ers aren't asking for much. Most just need help with the basics. Help finding a place to live, assistance with car repairs, relief from medical bills caused by their time behind bars. These patriots don't have the support of big-name celebrities, influencers, or billionaires to help them rebuild their lives. They have you. Even providing just $50 of support has an enormous impact on our ability to meet their needs. Scan the QR code now or visit j6support.com. Support a January 6 patriot in need.
Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of a Real Voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
I'm Patriot Mermaid, and I'm from West Haven, Connecticut. When the mainstream media wasn't giving us the truth, I went and looked for the truth and found it on Real America's Voice. Come and join us. Come on.
This is Rashad from Boston, Massachusetts, and I love Real America's Voice. It is the best place for real news and content. Much love.
Hi, this is Kelly Renee from Northern California Hills, MAGA country. The reason I watch Real America's Voice is for the faith, the family, and the freedom. Giddy up!
Winning this war requires boots on the ground. I asked you that last time. That's not very popular with the American people. What is your response to that?
It's not popular with me either. Look, I'm not a parent of an Army person, a Marine person, so I'm very sensitive to that. Trust me. But look, we have the Army, we have the Marines for a reason. They're not there to shake your hand at the airport, Rachel. Okay? They're there for a reason. Last I checked, we don't have a draft in this country. So these courageous men and women know exactly what they're signing up for. This is war. We don't want to see anybody die, but this is war. A war that started 47 years ago that they started. So, yes, I know the moral ground is to say, I don't want our kids to die. I feel the same way. But we got to win. Now, we can win maybe without putting boots on the ground. Maybe we can. I don't know. I'm not Jack Keane. I don't have that type of information. If we can do that, great. But if at some point it requires putting some boots on the ground to win this war, that's why they signed up. To fight for this country, to fight for President Trump, and to rid the world of evil animals like the Iranian regime.
On economic consequences for every historic and significant decision a president makes. And I am confident that in the end, President Trump will be judged as one of our greatest presidents for numerous reasons, but especially this courageous undertaking. And it may take time, context, and perspective to understand how extraordinary the president's actions are and how heroic they are under the circumstances, since it seems that every element of our society, except for you, Mr. and Mrs. America, are objecting to him doing what he's doing, which must be done.
You, Mr. and Mrs. America, that have raised your kids upright so they want to defend this country, and Sid, was it Rosenberg right there saying they know what they signed up for, another war in the Middle East. Not so sure about that. Being one of the people that signed up, and of course, my kid brother and daughter and many, many people in the family, but all served in the Middle East. Nick Cleveland Stout from Quincy, you've got a report that I want to make sure we go through it in detail so people can see and read for themselves and look at your backup data so they come to their own conclusion. But it's pretty jaw-dropping. You basically assert from your research that since October 7th, the Hamas attack, terrorist attack, surprise attack on Israel, that since roughly that time, is it $1 billion or close to $1 billion has been spent by Israel for influencers and radio? And I'm not saying Sid or Mark Levin took that money. I just want to use that as an example of some of the over-the-top pitches you're hearing on Fox News right now. But that $1 billion has gone in an influence operation, very sophisticated, very systematic, not just onesies, twosies, but to basically change opinion or to influence opinion and then political action in the United States, sir?
Yeah, first of all, thanks so much for having me. But that's exactly right, that about $1 billion has been allocated for public diplomacy, Hasbara efforts abroad, not just in the U.S., but you can I tracked about 100 million of those dollars has been spent under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which is, as your viewers are probably well aware, this law that requires contractors, lobbyists of foreign governments to disclose what they're doing on behalf of foreign governments. So, yeah, it's a lot of money, and it's being used for a lot of things, influencing chatbots, paying influencers, reaching out to evangelical Christians, all kinds of things that we can get into.
Now, this is separate. I just want to make sure this is separate from AIPAC and money they put in either for lobbying or for giving money to political campaigns or for lobbying efforts on Capitol Hill, correct? This is a totally, and the reason people are kind of shocked by it, that they've had that, Israel's done that for years, people that are affiliated and support Israel have done that for years, but this is a totally different bucket, correct?
That's exactly right. This is a totally new strategy that was largely in response to, I think, them realizing that they needed to put their thumb on the scale in a more meaningful way, like after just the precipitous collapse of American public support for the U.S.-Israel relationship. Whereas before they could rely on those organizations that you're describing, like AIPAC, like Christians United for Israel, that are American-led, American-funded. Now they have to the Israeli government is actually having to hire a lot of people under FARA, which they didn't do before.
But walk me through, well, in FARA, because I think there's more attention to these FARA laws today. People are realizing you could be prosecuted for this. I think people for years did this without doing it. You could be prosecuted for this. And so now they're much more. But isn't this in response to, in fairness, isn't this a response to all of a sudden they were kind of overwhelmed by TikTok and Instagram of all these other influencers, some of which money may have come from the Gulf Emirates? Because remember, the theory of the war room, we ain't got any friends over there. The Gulf Emirates that we're defending, and you got all these bases over there, and kids are dying at these bases. They're the same guys funding radical Islam here in the United States. They're not our allies, and we can't keep kidding ourselves they're our allies. The Israelis, wasn't the fact they got caught by surprise, particularly on TikTok and Instagram, of this kind of flood of particularly of the early days of the Gaza war, that all of a sudden you can see it, particularly among young people, they started to shift dramatically on their support for Israel, which traditionally the country's just kind of had I don't want to say knee jerk, but it was just always Israel's our greatest ally, right? And all of a sudden they realized that with TikTok and Instagram, there was a very different message getting out there, and they were late to the party.
Yeah, to be clear, a lot of different countries engage in different kinds of foreign influence. And, if you look at the top spenders, they're pretty much all Gulf countries. I've written about Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar. Those countries in particular are very invested in influencing, elite opinion, American public opinion. I think that a lot of I will say, I think
hold on. I want to make sure, hang on. I want to make sure I get this clear, because this is why you're such an important guy. You're covering it all. They're doing that so that we support them, but they're also trying to they're particularly with, you can see it in Texas and throughout the country, with this kind of what I call this Islamic invasion. The money's all coming from Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Qatar, particularly Qatar. But they're very active in this social media to influence American, not just opinion, but to turn it into political power, correct? Political power from the United States that supports them in the Gulf, correct?
All of these countries are very invested in winning over, exactly like you said, American public opinion, elite opinion. I mean, I think a lot of the response, though, to this precipitous collapse in American public support, I don't think you can just chalk up to foreign influence. Like a lot of it is very organic. Seeing the images coming out of Gaza, seeing churches being bombed. I know a lot of evangelical Christians have been very upset seeing what's coming out of Gaza. And then there are plenty of America First, very, genuine America First concerns over, the fact that Israel has played a role in getting the U.S. into this war with Iran. So, I think a lot of those countries that you mentioned have been active in this space. I haven't seen that they've directly paid influencers. That seems relatively new. But these countries definitely sponsor delegations of influencers to come over. Qatar's done that. Saudi Arabia has done that. So they're all very, very active in trying to win over these, important stakeholders.
Do we have enough to make it visible? First off, I think it should be banned. But to make it visible, is the foreign, because you said right now from the Gulf Emirates, in your research, I don't think any of the influence, the money that's going to people, and there is money going to people, is not fully reported. Do we have laws in the book so that the American people can say, hey, if it's the Israelis or if it's Qatar, I can fully understand that they're feeding me stuff that they want me to react to and to support them? Is there enough regulation of this that the American people would be able to say, hey, because we don't want to limit what people see, but when you see it, that, hey, somebody's giving me their point of view because they want me to report to respond to what they want to have happen?
We do, in the Foreign Agents Registration Act, like if you register as a foreign agent, you're given a packet full of instructions about how to comply with the law. And, if you look at that, like it says that if you post online, for instance, then you have to always disclose that you are a paid agent of a foreign government. It's called a conspicuous statement. And if you look, some foreign agents actually do abide by this. If you look at like Rod Blagojevich, for instance, he's a registered foreign agent for Republika Srpska, and he's very transparent. Like whenever he posts on Twitter, he always says, I'm doing this because I'm a paid foreign agent. And that's part of the problem is like, something that Marjorie Taylor Greene has pointed out is it's so difficult to know who is paid and who's not in the foreign influence space. The problem is it's not enforced, right? There are a lot of influencers who are being paid, but we just don't know who they are. The same way when you're scrolling your timeline and you see an ad for, a pair of Nike shoes, and it says, this is an ad.
But hang on. You're saying $100 million. Let's start with what we do know, and if that's being enforced, then we start with what we don't know and it's not being. The $100 million, in fact, I think, and I was kind of shocked at this because I know Brad pretty well, but Brad Parscale, who was our head of digital in the first Trump campaign, I think even the second Trump campaign, there was some perturbation. I think he's still running. He's an expert. Brad's one of the smartest guys in the world of this. That's why he's always been part of the Trump movement. Brad, he and his partner bought Salem Radio, and Salem Radio, and people should understand this. They bought Salem Radio. I don't think they paid anything for the equity. They bought the debt at a huge discount. Why was that? Because the hosts at Salem Radio were not generating a big enough audience to really get the ad revenues to pay for it. So Brad Parscale, did they take, was it $50 or $60 million directly from Israel, and Brad actually registered as a foreign agent?
Yeah, so he registered as a foreign agent of Israel in September of last year, and his contract has been upped many times by the Israeli government. So initially it was for $1.5 million a month, then it was $3 million a month. Now he's getting $4.5 million a month. And yeah, he's doing a number of things for the Israeli government. He's been the largest recipient of these funds that are trickling down to American contractors working for the Israeli government. So over the course of a year, he's set to get just shy of $50 million.
Okay, 50 minutes. So I'm gonna hold you through the break. But if I'm listening to Salem Radio, did they have a disclosure that says that they are funded by a foreign agent of the Israeli government? I mean, you talk about there's regulations that they have to post it. If you have AM radio, which is still kind of from the Rush Limbaugh school of getting the word out, very powerful, particularly in the MAGA movement, particularly in rural areas. Did they have disclosures now on all their disclosures, including Scott Jennings and all these guys, Hugh Hewitt, that they are financed and basically kept alive by a foreign agent of money coming directly from Israel, sir?
They do not. And to clarify, though, so Parscale has a firm called Clock Tower X, which is the LLC that this $50 million is coming through. And Parscale is doing a lot of things on behalf of the Israeli government. One of the things is that he's carrying out a mass texting campaign. He's texting what appears to be millions and millions of Americans, asking them about their views on Israel, lightly pushing, pro-Israeli narratives. He's also creating a number of websites on behalf of the Israeli government that talk about, how great of an ally Israel is, why it's important for the U.S. to support Israel in the war in Iran, all these different things. So those are two of the main things that he's doing. But there is this other element of, in the initial contract, he said that part of his work would be to integrate pro-Israel messaging into Salem media. And
hang on one second. I want to fully develop this topic. Short commercial break. Nick Cleveland Stout from the Quincy Institute on this amazing report that you've got to read. Short commercial break. Back in a moment.
We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP.
You push it. You try to slide it. You even try to hold them shut. But your doors just...
The radical left and the fake news media want you to believe that the people who were at the Capitol on January 6th are all criminals and terrorists. Do these people look like terrorists to you?
J6ers have been smeared and defamed by the media, persecuted by the government, and treated like terrorists.
They are Ben Burlew, Annie Howell, Damon Beckley, Barry Ramey, and Cindy Young, the real faces of January 6th.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
These J6ers aren't asking for much. Most just need help with the basics. Help finding a place to live, assistance with car repairs, relief from medical bills caused by their time behind bars. These patriots don't have the support of big-name celebrities, influencers, or billionaires to help them rebuild their lives. They have you. Even providing just $50 of support has an enormous impact on our ability to meet their needs. Scan the QR code now or visit j6support.com. Support a January 6 patriot in need.
Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of a real voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
I'm Patriot Mermaid, and I'm from West Haven, Connecticut. When the mainstream media wasn't giving us the truth, I went and looked for the truth and found it on Real America's Voice. Come and join us. Come on.
This is Rashad from Boston, Massachusetts, and I love Real America's Voice. It is the best place for real news and content. Much love.
Hi, this is Kelly Renee from Northern California Hills, MAGA country. The reason I watch Real America's Voice is for the faith, the family, and the freedom. Giddy up!
Okay, Chapter, a data-driven company, I bet your Medicare, has saved the War and Posse over $1 million. Right now, they still have the hotline, 845-WAR-ROOM. Can't get simpler than that. Pick the phone up, 845-WAR-ROOM. It's a free, no-obligation consultation where they talk to you about or you talk to them about your current Medicare plan, and they do different perturbations, can talk to you about alternatives, all based on data. That's Chapter. We're getting rave reviews about this. 845-WAR-ROOM. Make sure you go check it out today. Also, Birch Gold, take your phone out. Text Bannon, B-A-N-N-O-N, 989898. You get the ultimate guide for investing in gold and precious metals in the age of Trump. And here's what this is about. It talks to you about gold IRAs and whether you should roll over your 401k or your IRA into a gold IRA, or maybe the ownership of physical gold, tax deferred. Talk to Philip Patrick and team of all the details. Do I have the trailer? Not yet. Just tell me when. I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite films. And you talk about this thing about being influencing and how controversial. So how much money has Salem actually gotten from this? I guess you're saying now up to $50 million that Parscale's taken as an agent of influence for Israel. And he's signed government documents saying, hey, I'm doing it. I'm taking the money. So I want to make sure that I report accurately. He's doing influencer campaigns. Is he disclosing who he's giving the money to on the texting side, on the influencing side, on whatever they're doing on Twitter? Or is it just disclosing what he's doing at Salem?
Parscale has disclosed quite a bit about what he's doing. So the company that's carrying out the mass texting campaign is called Sparkfire Technologies. He's given them upwards of $5 million to carry out this campaign. I know a lot of people that have gotten these texts. They'll reach out. They'll say something like, "Hey,
do they disclose? Hang on. Do they disclose that they're agents of the Israeli government in the text?
They do not, and that's a very important point. They'll reach out initially. They'll say something.
Whoa! Isn't that a violation of federal law?
So it appears as though, so basically they, at some point in the conversation, they will send a link to one of these pro-Israel websites that are created by Parscale. And if you click that website and go to the very, very bottom, and then you see a statement that says this is a paid campaign from the Israeli government. I don't know about you, but I typically don't click links from random chatbots that reach out.
But whose responsibility? It's not a self-reporting thing. Whose responsibility when you're a foreign agent? Who is supposed to be checking that and going to Parscale and say, hey, look, at the bottom of the 5th page is not good enough. You need it in block letters up at the top. Just like if Qatar's doing it or the CCP's doing it, it should be in block letters right up there so the American people, you shouldn't block the content so the American people can't say you should see it. You can weigh and measure it. But you should know if it's coming from a government that's paying the guy to do it. This is not just a group of Americans saying, hey, look, we support Israel. Let's put on a play, right? No. So whose responsibility is to enforce this?
It's the Department of Justice. And I think it's a very important point, though, that this is like not just an Israel specific thing. This is like if anyone is carrying out this campaign, they need to disclose that they are funded on behalf of a foreign government, that they're carrying this out on behalf of a foreign government. So, yeah, it's the Department of Justice's responsibility to ensure that different foreign agents are disclosing everything that they need to be. And, it appears to me as though Parscale in these texts is not meeting that threshold.
What would they do? They've taken $500,000 on Salem Radio. You said he's even disclosed that. Do they put up any disclaimer at all on their website? They put up any disclaimer during their shows that we are partially funded or we are taking money from a registered foreign agent of the Israeli government, sir?
I haven't seen anything along those lines. But Parscale is clearly in a position to be able to integrate these pro-Israel messaging into Salem Media properties. He's the chief strategy officer over there. He said that he hasn't really done anything related to Salem Media. But in his initial filing, he made very clear that that was one of his top priorities. And one of his closest allies just played a large role in the buyout of Salem Media about a month and a half ago.
Yeah. No, they bought it out. He and his partner bought it out. Qatar, whether it's New York City, the public education, I can tell you down in Texas, between Pakistan, Saudis, Turks, but really Qatar, we're getting flooded with propaganda about Islam and about the benefits of Islam. Is anybody in the Justice Department, if they're not self-disclosing, at least Parscale disclosed, so he's in public thing, I'm an agent of the Israeli government. There are there's tons of cash coming in from the Gulf Emirates, as you know. Is anybody enforce that? And do we need somebody at the Justice Department to say, hey, look, you got to get on top of this. They got people in the United States acting as their agents and not disclosing it, sir?
Definitely. There needs to be far more disclosure. I think we've seen just a lack of enforcement in this Justice Department, unfortunately, when it comes to foreign influence. We have laws on the books, but unfortunately, it seems like.
But hang on, but Biden didn't do it any better. My point is, it's kind of the apparatus. The apparatus is just not interesting. We see this in the disclosures of Pulte. Anyway, we got to bounce. I'm going to have you back on tomorrow. I got so many more questions, but I want everybody to read this report. And if Mo and Elizabeth and Grace can act as force multipliers, send it out to the posse. I need everybody to read it. Nick, you're going to be back on this tomorrow. Until that time, your social media, where they go to get your research, sir.
Yeah, the Quincy Institute, quincyinst.org, plenty of good stuff there. You can read the entire report for yourself. The Eighth Front, you can also follow me on Twitter, Nick Cleveland Stout. I think my username is Nick_ClevelandS.
The Eighth Front. In fact, tomorrow I will start off by asking Nick, what is the Eighth Front? Nick, thank you so much for coming on today. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
On our first show back without the great Sam Faddis. Unbelievable. Tomorrow, 5 to 7, Natalie and Jack are going to be co-hosting with me. We're going to do a special Sam Faddis for 2 hours, and we're going to tie it to current events because Sam would have been all over the show with both Zelensky and Netanyahu in town for meetings about Lindsey Graham's funeral, attending Lindsey Graham's funeral. Sam Faddis, I think, would have one or two observations about that, and we'll tie it all together. The Charlie Kirk Show is next. Andrew Covette and the team. Poso will be up, fully operational in his studio after his trip
overseas at 2 o'clock. You got Steve Gruber's going to be in Michigan. President's leaving. In fact, we had it in the box. Leaving from Michigan. Gruber's going to be there live, and then bowling, and then back to the war at 5 o'clock. We'll be here 5 to 7 tonight. Until then, you've been in the war room. We'll see you back there at 5.
Do you have time to take a survey for our disabled veterans? Do you have time to take...
The radical left and the fake news media want you to believe that the people who were at the Capitol on January 6th are all criminals and terrorists. Do these people look like terrorists to you?
J6ers have been smeared and defamed by the media, persecuted by the government, and treated like terrorists.
They are Ben Burlew, Annie Howell, Damon Beckley, Barry Ramey, and Cindy Young, the real faces of January 6th.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
These J6ers aren't asking for much. Most just need help with the basics. Help finding a place to live, assistance with car repairs, relief from medical bills caused by their time behind bars. These patriots don't have the support of big-name celebrities, influencers, or billionaires to help them rebuild their lives. They have you. Even providing just